Hi, my name's Chris King. I'm going to show you something that's an absolute magic trick. Uh, Firstly, let me reassure you, I'm a conscious, sentient human being, and all my life, from the day I was born, I've been conscious, subjectively, of the world around me. Some of those experiences are looking at this table, and we learn that there is a world out there of solid objects. We also dream. If we're lucky enough or brave enough or foolish enough, many of us may have had psychedelic experiences that we know that we can have very non-ordinary kinds of subjective experience. Now, there's something that we all do all the time, and we need to do it. Otherwise, we simply don't survive. All active organisms interact with the environment. And whether we argue about whether animals are conscious, all pet lovers know that particularly their mammal pets, are conscious. Humans, anyway, the only way they understand that they're living in a universe of physical molecules and so on is indirectly. All their experiences, all our experiences, are subjectively conscious, from waking through dreaming. The physical world is inferred out of our conscious experiences together. Now, neuroscience has brought about a kind of crisis of confidence that's like a religion, in which, because we can probe the brain to some extent, and a very limited extent when it comes down to it, because electroencephalograms are very crude representations of waveforms on the surface of the skin. We don't normally, with humans, crack our crania wide open and try to detect off the brain. Occasionally we do this. We can do animal studies, and we've learnt to do various opto technology that enables us to colour neurons and so on. Now, because of some of these, particularly animal studies observations, scientists, biologists and neuroscientists in particular, have begun to deduce some physically causal mechanisms in how the brain functions. That's hardly surprising, because the brain is an organ and it needs to function. It has neurons, it has neuroglia, and it has to produce signals out of the muscles for us to act. But the whole process has become insane, and it became insane originally because Thomas Huxley looked at frogs that had had their crania, their brains essentially chopped off apart from the basal brain areas, were still able to do some very primitive things of trying to scratch their back if they had a hot or a burning sensation put on their back. They would try to scratch it with one of their legs, and if one of their legs was then cut off, they would try with the other leg. This caused Thomas Huxley to conclude that we are just passengers in conscious existence, and that the conscious brain is not able to influence the physical universe. Now, this is false, but it gave rise to a phenomenon called epiphenomenalism, which makes us passengers. We somehow, science concedes that we do have conscious experience, although that is very, very unclear and disputed. But we certainly don't have any subjective conscious volition over the physical universe. Now, I'm sorry, but since single-celled eukaryotes evolved, cells have been purposively navigating their environment, sensing their environment, and affecting their environment. And our brains are just large collections of eukaryote cells that have learned socially to communicate in a very sophisticated way to represent the context environmentally of what we need to experience to survive. Now, this comes down to a really fundamental principle that science has become resistant to understanding. to the point where we become helpless victims of neuroscience, because we're living on a planet in which we are precipitating a mass extinction of biodiversity, and there's absolutely no hope that humanity will survive long term through some technological civilization having destroyed the diversity of life on this planet. And we don't even know there's another planet with life on it, because we haven't got any confirming evidence of life further out in the universe, although it probably, given the nature of what organic molecules are, may exist. But we need to understand that humanity depends on the biosphere to survive, and the neuroscientific view of the helpless epiphenomenalistic brain is a doomsday scenario for our future. So I'm going to perform a magical trick, because I've been in a couple of expert groups where people will just say, you have no volition, your consciousness can't affect physical matter, it's just your brain doing it. And you are fooling yourself if you think you can actually, subjectively, consciously, have any efficacy over the physical universe. Now I can sit here on this Ferrero Rocher chocolate box is a small paperclip. Now I can stare at this. This is not about consciousness alone, it's about the transition from consciousness to actual volition. And I'm looking at you and you're looking at me, but our brain has what is called veridical, particularly in vision, veridical perception. Now what this means is that our visual view of the universe around us is realer and better than the actual input we're getting from the photons, which are colourless, odourless objects that just have wavelength. We are seeing in 3D, and we preserve the size of objects as people walk through the room and know they're not getting bigger and smaller. We have a very good veridical model of reality conveyed through the senses. Now, this veridical view of reality extends to our actions. So when we perform an intentional action, we are watching it happen, we are veridically perceiving that our actions are having an effect, we know consciously that we have the intention to have that effect, and we watch it ensue and make sure that it ensues the way we consciously intend it. Now, this isn't just about consciousness, and there's a confusion on the part of scientists, because consciousness means many things, and particularly it means awareness of something. Now, I'm staring at this paperclip, and I can stare consciously at it until I'm blue in the face, and I cannot, some people might, and we know about spoon vendors, but I cannot easily or with any confidence demonstrate to you that I can make that paperclip lift off the chocolate box. But there's something really magical I can do, and that is, I can now intend to show you, and you can do this too, it's not difficult, and you actually do it every time you get a cup of coffee, and that is, I can lift my arm. Somehow my conscious intention subtly affects my brain in such a way that what I subjectively intend to do becomes manifest in my actions. So I can go over to this paperclip, it's not particularly heavy, and I can actually grab hold of it and show it to you, and what I'm demonstrating is that my subjective conscious mind enacted a process which affected the physical universe. Now, if we can't accept that as human beings we can do this, then we can't punch our way out of the paper bag, and we can't save the biosphere, and we can't do anything about anything. So I'm putting it back, and I'm saying to you, you have subjective conscious volition over the physical universe, and this is the absolute core of the law of both civil law and criminal law about criminal intent, malice aforethought, company responsibility based on intent. This is how humanity has survived, and our society and our neuroscientists need to accept and understand that the universe, the true cosmology of the universe, involves both subject consciousness and physical matter, and the action of subjective consciousness upon physical matter. That is the key to our survival. Now, lovely to talk. I'm a member of two expert groups. I'm going to send a copy of this to both of the groups to try to get this point very, very simply across. That it is madness for people to imagine that their brain made them do it, and that they have no power of conscious volition over their actions. They therefore have no responsibility for their actions. That is suicide.